The physiology of sexual intercourse was unexplored territory until the 1950s, primarily due to repressive attitudes towards the subject. And then in the 1950s, William Masters and Virginia Johnson began work on the first physiological studies of sexual response in the laboratory. In 1966, they published The Human Sexual Response, which detailed measurements and observations of more than 10,000 sexual acts by nearly 700 volunteer couples. They then turned their attention to disorders of sexual function and pioneered modern therapy for sexual dysfunctions. They divided intercourse into 4 recognizable phases: excitement, plateau, and resolution. Sexual intercourse can also be known as coitus, coition, or copulation. Of course, there are other authorities that have modified these 4 recognizable phases or proposed alternatives. For example, in the Eastern philosophy of tantric sex, there may be many plateaus before an orgasm. To understand male sexual function, we have to take a closer look at the blood circulation and nerve supply to the penis. There are 2 major arteries that are going to enter the root of the penis. The dorsal artery will travel under the skin on the dorsal surface and supply blood to the skin, fascia, and corpus spongiosum. This is the artery that provides most of the blood supply in a flaccid penis. The deep artery travels through the core of the corpus cavernosa. It gives off many smaller helicine arteries that penetrate the trabeculae and enter the lacunae in the cavernosa tissue. Dilation of the deep artery fills the lacunae, causing swelling of the penis and erection. There are many anastomoses that unite the deep and the dorsal arteries. The deep dorsal vein is going to drain blood from the penis. Now, as far as innervation of the penis, the glans obviously has an abundance of tactile pressure and temperature receptors, which are particularly dense around the frenulum on the underside. The dorsal nerve of the penis and the internal pudendal nerves lead to an integrating center in the sacral spinal cord. There's both autonomic and somatic motor fibers that carry impulses from the integrating center to the penis. Sympathetic innervation is going to induce an erection in response to input from the special senses and from sexual thoughts. However, the parasympathetics will induce an erection in response to direct stimulation of the penis. So in the excitement phase, we'll see swelling of the genitals with blood or vasocongestion, myotonia or muscle tension, and increases in heart rate, blood pressure, and pulmonary ventilation. The bulbourethral glands will secrete their fluid to lubricate the tip of the penis. This phase is initiated by a broad spectrum of erotic stimuli, either from the special senses or from physical stimulation. Erection of the penis is due to parasympathetic triggering of the nitric oxide secretion, which causes dilation of the deep arteries, so the filling of the lacunae with blood is possible. Vasocongestion can cause the testicles to become 50% larger during excitement. During the plateau phase, variables such as respiratory rate, heart rate, and blood pressure stay increased. We see a marked increase in vasocongestion and myotonia. Plateau phase can last a few seconds or a few minutes before orgasm will come. Orgasm or climaxes are short but intense. They're usually marked by discharge of semen. They last about 3 to 15 seconds. Heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing greatly elevate. Ejaculation usually occurs during orgasm, and it happens in two stages. First, there's emission, which is where the sympathetic nervous system stimulates peristalsis, which propels sperm through ducts, and glandular secretions are added. During expulsion, the semen in the urethra activates somatic and sympathetic reflexes that stimulate muscular contractions that lead to expulsion. The sympathetic reflex constricts internal urethral sphincter, so urine cannot enter the urethra and semen cannot enter the bladder. You can see the nervous input here illustrated in the figure to the right. Ejaculation and orgasm are not the same thing. They could occur separately. During the resolution phase, the body returns to the pre-excitement state. The sympathetic signals constrict the internal pudendal artery and reduce blood flow to the penis. The penis becomes flaccid, which is termed detumescence, and the cardiovascular and respiratory response return to normal. Now, there's a refractory period following resolution in which it's usually impossible for a male to attain another erection or orgasm. Usually they last from about 10 minutes, but could be as long as many hours. So now it might be interesting to look at how Viagra and other such drugs prolong erections. Viagra, Levitra, Cialis, they're all a class of phosphodiesterase inhibitors. So during sexual stimulation, we'll see nitric oxide release. And nitric oxide activates cyclic GMP. And the cyclic GMP will increase blood flow to the erectile tissue. Now, cyclic GMP is broken down into phosphodiesterase type 5. Because it's being broken down, it will no longer be able to increase the blood flow and cause vasodilation and erection. So these phosphodiesterase inhibitors will prevent cyclic GMP from being broken down into phosphodiesterase type 5, leaving more cyclic GMP in the system and allowing for longer vasodilation and thus increased duration of erection. So this completes our chapter on the male reproductive system. Go ahead and perfect your diagrams. Check out the diagramming assignment, complete that, and go on to Connect to complete your Learn Smart module for the week. Also, be sure to check out the Anatomy and Physiology Revealed content for the lab portion of this course.